Outside here on the Eclectic Institute campus, this is really what naturopathy is all about. We have earth with its plants, sun, water, fresh air. It's all of these components of nature which really are the foundations of health. Then and now, we're hardwired to require all these elements to keep us vitalized and healthy. And so freeze drying has allowed Eclectic Institute to preserve all of those properties of fresh plants found both in the medicinal herbs and also to preserve those fresh plants that are often seasonal and only available maybe regionally or certain times of year, to make them available the entire year. The beauty of freeze drying is it allows you to take a fresh food and turn it into a dry powder without altering all the valuable nutrients and phytochemicals in the plant. And the way that's done is by taking a fresh plant and freezing it, putting that frozen plant into the freeze dryer, which then, under a vacuum, the ice crystals in the frozen plant material are converted to water vapor. It doesn't go through that liquid water phase as would occur with air drying or oven drying. With freeze drying, the chemical structures are held intact, and actually the plant form is held intact until it's powdered when you're finished. So what you have in the end of the freeze drying process is basically fresh plants in dried powdered form. And that's the great value of taking herbs and freeze drying them. You can actually consume them and receive the nutritional and nutrient value of the medicinal herbs, and also taking food plants, whether they're fruits, vegetables, but especially with berries, and being able to use them in the dried powdered form. It's a way of concentrating the potency of those plants so that it not only has nutritional value, but it can have even medicinal value, so that your food becomes your medicine and your medicine can be your food.
John Uri Lloyd was a pharmacist, and he was the person that created a lot of the extract products that came from the early eclectic medicine. And when I was practicing pharmacy in California for a number of years before I moved up to Oregon to start naturopathic medicine, I had a background in pharmacy that got me thinking that probably one of my best roles as a naturopathic doctor would be to develop products that were more in the line of health rather than your usual medicine at the time. So one of the things that struck me in terms of methods was the possibility to use some of the techniques that came from pharmacy. So one of the things that interested me was that freeze drying in pharmacy was used a lot for the preservation of plasma in the 1950s. And that became an interest once I started learning more about naturopathic medicine and herbal products. So my desire was to look at a way to create some botanicals that would enhance the freshness of the plants. At the earlier points during this time, mostly you would have liquid extracts, which meant that the product was either fresh or dried, but nonetheless what came out was a fraction. And if you could somehow keep all of the fractions there and only remove the water through freeze drying, you would essentially preserve the entire complex except that moisture. So in the process of experimenting with product development, you would think that there would be all this science behind it. But in fact, one of the best products that we created was entirely by accident. We had to go collect some fresh material and send it at this point to California and see if the material stayed fresh during the shipping. And that was all we wanted. We expected them to take that material then and just discard it and not really send us any product, but just let us know if it looked fresh. So then what happened was a month or so passed and we finally got the material back, but the company had, instead of just looking at it They actually sent it to a freeze-drying machine nearby them, freeze-dried it, put it in capsules, put it in a bottle, sent it back to us, and we had no real use for it. But here it was sitting in our office, and a couple days later, it was now springtime, and our business manager came in, and we said he had really bad allergies during that time of year, so we suggested he take the other plant that was there, which was Echinacea, but instead he took the stinging nettles capsules, and his allergies immediately disappeared. So we had him do this again and again, and every time it would work for nettles as a freeze-dried product. Before that time, worldwide, it had never been used or known to be effective for allergies. So when we discovered this, then we knew that the freeze-dried form was the only way that nettles was going to work. Before that time, it had never been used for allergies at all.
Just as the early explorers to North America were bringing plants back to Europe to look for future medicines, the eclectic herbalists learned a lot from the Native American and First Natives, and when they dried their herbs, if they dried them, it was at a sun temperature. Then we get into industry and we dry with heat. That's what makes freeze drying unique. Any temperature above 120 kills many of the phytonutrients that are found in the raw whole food. Freeze drying retains all of the enzymes, sometimes even heightens their activity, and all of the 5,000 plus chemicals that are originally found in the plant. Whereas when most companies make a dried product, they will try to speed up the process with additional heat, killing the nutrients that make the big difference. So anytime you're not eating fresh off of a living plant, you're getting a fraction of what exists in the whole. Freeze drying, we think, and I think the evidence of studies, and now the whole world is researching this industry, is showing that it's the closest to the whole food, minus the water, of any preparation method that we've devised at this current time.